Thanks, man. Finally, we're here, man. Let's do this.
The young founder, how are you? So, because I know you on a personal basis,
Yeah.
I would love for you to maybe introduce yourself to people who would want to know you and take part into what you're doing and probably explain why you're putting on the cape you're putting on. Yes, it's a famous logo. So all that, let me give you the honors so that you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Sultan Suliz. My other guys call me Atubo. Yeah, I'm in the sports management business, but I did computer engineering. So after my campus, I decided to venture into sports management. I had some bits of playing football before while I was at campus and all that.
Yeah.
So after it stopped, I just decided to say, what should I do to stay in the game? You know, I looked into coaching, I looked into other things, but I think the sports management bit came because I'm coming from a background of a player. So it gave me more urge to go and, try and get to know what's in that business. And yeah, for the past, I think, 6 or 5 years, we're in the business now.
So when you say coming from that background as a player, how far as a player had you achieved to really what defines your passion of sports, and how much of a player had you become? Were you playing like on the national league or things like that?
Not
or were you just
really.
a sports fan, like maybe Eddie Kenzo, you go and play around with your boys, but you have the talent?
Not really. I was actually at the point of, I think 2016 it was. I had a deal to sign with a second division club in Turkey, but then I didn't have an agent. They wanted an agent from Uganda at that time. So I remember even tweeting about it and saying, you know what, are there some sports agents in Uganda and stuff like that? So when that deal fell through, I felt demoralized, and I think that was the end of the playing career. So I was not so much into the ranks in the national team and stuff like that because I wasn't here for. After my Form 6, that's when I left the country.
Yeah.
So I didn't have so much time to be around the clubs in Uganda so much. But I played for some big league clubs in Uganda. I was at Sporting United from Lira. So after my campus, like I said, I left the country. I mean, after Form 6, I left the country, and yeah, so it was all that route all through.
So sports management, and in this case, NextPro Sports.
Yep.
Brand, I see you're putting together and making sure it kicks off.
Yeah.
What's the aim? What's the goal? And what's like the vision? How are you looking at getting us really interested in the sport? Because I feel like there are quite a number of people who are doing. I do not know about sports management. It's only NextPro that I know that is doing sports management personally.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to search for at least from a local basis. I know it's the only one that I've seen that has branded out really completely.
Yeah.
But what is the whole aim and vision of?
Now it comes back again to my story of I had a deal and I didn't have anyone to help me. If I had an agent at that point, I could have got that deal, and you never know where the career could have gone. So I positioned myself in a situation where maybe there's a kid maybe from Lira or from Kanungu, somewhere deep down there, who probably needs an agent to guide him on something, and they don't have access to anyone. So I wanted to create that space where any footballer can call us and then, and tell us, I need help with this. Can you look into my contract? Can you help me with this? Can you talk to this club? Can you use your connection and help us with that? So my whole side of the story was to try and help the players, because there are really so many stories of Ugandan athletes, be it with finance, be it with contracts, be it with their clubs. There are so many issues players are facing. Yeah. But then when you look at the trend right now, the league is trying to brand itself. The clubs are trying to do something, to improve their books and all that. But then what are the players doing? So we're trying to come and help the players also to have a stand somewhere in their careers.
Nice, interesting. Yeah. So how do you imagine working with these Ugandan players? Because to my understanding, money is still a very big important factor. And these players, I do not know now, but I see a lot of clubs have come up and a lot of sponsors, so I do not know about their payments. But I like to imagine they're not like Premier League players who take soccer on as a full-time job, so it will be easier to have them together. I like to think that besides just playing for the league, they have to go and hustle to make ends meet and stuff like that. So how then are you going to help them really get under management if they still have to struggle with daily, today things? There's one thing in the sports in general in the country that really hit my head. One day I was listening to Fairly Odd Men. There's a podcast, Fairly Odd Men. So they were talking about what people in rugby get, and man of the match gets 6 beers. Then I was actually reading a story, and this is actually true. It was not just Lobster making a joke. People really get 6 beers. So this is how bad and hectic sports is in our country. So how are you really going to manage players who cannot tie just down to sports to survive, and they still have to keep up with other lives? I'm thinking what they feed changes, because management is a big thing. From what I've been reading on how someone is really kept up. They have to be focused on to really produce the quality the world needs.
Now, if you look at sports guys, naturally they're influencers. Like
that's right.
It's automatic. There is, no matter the level where you're playing at. I can take you back to when you're in high school, and then you had a guy probably who was in the school team. The kids who are playing in the school team, they had maybe privileges. They could sleep in maybe a different dormitory, or they ate some different meals or stuff like that. So these players, first of all, they need to understand that they are an influence, by default. So it comes down to building a brand that is going to live beyond football. It's not just football. Yes, football has given you a platform to build a brand that can live beyond football. You look at some of the great players we've had through the ranks of the Cranes and all that. Yes, they are good players, but right now no one knows where they are.
Exactly.
No one knows where their life is. So we're coming from that angle of trying to have our players branded well and try to match those brands with the corporate brands that we are connected with, and try and see if we can work out things of endorsement deals, talking of partnerships and things like that. So that is the major angle where we're trying to come from. But of course, there's so many things like financial literacy will come in at some point. Where are these kids investing the little money they're getting? All those things are going to be involved in the process.
Oh, interesting. So, NextPro comes to do this. Do you think the environment, the sports environment, right today, I was reading on my timeline, where yesterday I think the first son had to really remind the first lady to pitch in for a national team that has to go play, represent the country elsewhere. That is how gross the environment is. So do you think it is really going to be favorable for NextPro to operate? And if not, how do you think you're going to penetrate?
As to work with the players are there. The talent is there.
So you brand out the players?
Yeah, we brand out the players. We have our strategies on how we do those things. So we stick to our guns and we stick to our plans, But like I said, the league is trying to do things. The clubs are trying to do things, but the players are not. So how are the players going to be ready if the league has got something? If the clubs have got something? Are the players going to be ready to take up that challenge that is coming from the league and the clubs? So they need to be ready also. So I don't care if we're starting from down or wherever the level, if the market is not favorable or not. We are trying to work with players who understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to be a benchmark of how players should be managed, and I know it's going to take a long step, but we have very good team with us. We have a very good strategy that we're going to use on how we're going to work with these players. So we're confident in what we're doing here.
Sure. That's interesting. So speaking of your signing, the latest signing, please explain us to us, and what's in for them? What exceptional thing should we expect that NextPro is going to add to this signing, and we should really be watching out for him to see the difference so that we could advise maybe a few of our other guys?
It's really not what we're trying to do for these kids, for you guys to see, but it's really for the kid to see it himself. I literally talk to these kids like more than I talk to my girlfriend. I talk to them every single day. I don't have a girlfriend, but I talk to them more than all my friends, literally. So I talk to them literally every single day. But the thing is trying to change their mindset. That's the first thing. That's the first step. They have so many challenges they face. They have so many problems that they're going through, that is not related to football. They have so many problems with their clubs. They have so many, things that we need to first have them in the right mind space, where a kid will know that I have to focus on my football, and then NextPro Sports is going to handle my things off the pitch. I don't want the kid
when you say NextPro Sports is going to handle things off the pitch,
yeah,
what do you entail now? I just want the common man to really understand.
I'll give you an example. Like, let me say a kid is coming from Lira and is joining a team, for example, in Kampala. Where is this kid going to stay? Where is he going to rent? Is the rent going to be affordable for him, depending on the salary that he's going to get here? Is it a safe space for him? Is it like security-wise? Is it okay? We need to look at all those details. How is the payment structure going to be? Now, a kid who is coming, who is 17, 16, might not have an idea of all these things. So we need to try and create that space for him where he's going to come, he's going to have this space set up, and then he's going to focus on his football. That is the main thing for us. We want him to have his mind focused on the game and maybe the marketing side of things and all that. But having issues with rent, talking to the landlord and stuff like that, no. We want to handle that for him.
Yes, seeing as we're really moving to the digital world where it moves pretty fast. And most of the problems with our players is on a personal level, even on their branding. A player comes from wherever they come from, you say Lira, and they do not even have a smartphone, probably show their skills or learn a few skills or do that. So the burden is so huge on the person of the player, on who they are, on how they want to get out there. First of all, just getting access to you, how is it going to be like? Besides, because I've known the brand NextPro, besides the fact that you're my friend, I also know it from social media. But how is my guy down there in wherever it is that is so far, and they have their skill, and how are you going to reach these people?
Now, we're having a lot of partnerships in so many departments, and very soon we shall be unveiling a couple of them. Academies is the root of all talents. I've been here for 3-4 weeks right now. I've visited a couple of academies with my team. So we're looking at academies. Academies is where it starts from. If we can have as many partnerships with these academies as we can, that would be a plus for us. Because a kid, you cannot just go and get in a kid from the streets and say, I'm going to manage him and stuff like that. Yes, we would love to help him, but then it should be through some channel and structures. So our first channel is going through the academies. Can we make partnerships with academies that are having the right mindset of building players and trying to feed the teams in the leagues? So that is where our focus is on right now. So we have made a couple of partnerships with some academies, 2 or 3 of them right now. So we are looking at getting those players from the academies when they are 15, 16, and try to feed them into the leagues. It could be the big league, could be the regional league, and then we try and keep track of their developments from there onwards.
And schooling, maybe if school can help someone get the exposure.
Yeah, I looked at schools, but as you can see now, the school league has really gone down. It's not like how it was before. But then, if schools like Chibuli is still there, St. Mary's is doing a good job. There are a couple of other schools there. Yeah, we can look at that. But the main thing is, can we get that kid who is willing to take their game from that lower league thing to something bigger, But then it comes down to the mentality, I don't want to have a kid. Yes, you can manage anyone. You can go. The talents are there. There's so many players out there. But then now you need to create a mentality where a kid is going to know that I'm building something bigger than this. I can't be aiming here. I should be trying to focus on the big things. You know, if the kid is in the big league, I want him to be focused on how do I get to the league. You know, but then it's not just going to be football. Football is also going to look at how do I brand myself? How is my social media running? How all these things. So we have mentorships programs for these kids. They're going to be advised on how they can use their socials. Of course, they're going to make mistakes. They're 16-year-old kids. We want them to be 16-year-old kids. We don't want them to be a 28-year-old. We want them to live their life, but in a more organized and professional way.
Yeah. Do you think you, with the idea of NextPro coming up, will be in position to really produce a lot of players playing in international leagues and bigger leagues? Because this is majorly what's missing, the marketing of the whole brand, the whole country marketing, let's say, sports, opportunity, getting together, equipped facilities. Right now we have our government is fundraising for sports centers and stuff like that. So all these services, do you think with such impact and with people like you coming up?
Definitely. I think so, because you can look at, I'll give you a straight example from football. You can look at a guy like Farouk Mia. He's playing at the top, but he has got top management around him. He has got very good people around him. Mustafa Chiza has just recently left the country. He has a very good agency behind him, top people around him, you know. So these kids really need people to guide them. We have had discussions of Ugandan players leaving the league and then going somewhere for 2 months, 3 months, they come back. This is the same thing they're facing, you know. This is the big reason, because you're going to find a guy who's going to say, you know what, I have a deal for you in this country. I want to take you there. But then they're just looking at the money bit of things. But then now there are other football-related things that you need to discuss before you even talk of the money. You're talking of, is this kid going to be in position to fit in the team where he's going? Is the coach probably maybe interested in him? How are they going to play the kid? How are they going to use the kid? What is that development structure of his football life? Before you talk of the money and everything. The money is probably the last thing we discuss in contracts. But you need to look at the development of the player first. And if you don't have the right people around you, you might be misguided.
Totally agree with you. Now, seeing as you really have this, you've invested in understanding how the sports could work for Ugandans, your fellow Ugandans. Are there what are those challenges you really highlight that we are facing, and maybe some solutions you'd suggest that could be? You never know, Mulinga could be listening to my podcast, or any other guy that would really pick up on an idea, and they will know that these are some of the things that are lacking in the industry, and these are people like Sultan who support and push some of these ideas.
Now, the first thing is, you know, sometimes you need to be real with yourself. We need to really understand that our league is really young. It's a very young league. There's no doubt to that. You know, I personally think the federation is trying to do something. They're really trying to create some structures. They have challenges like anyone else. Clubs are doing a great job. You're seeing KCCA, you're seeing the Vipers, you're seeing the URAs. Express has won the league, you know.
But they don't
all that,
home.
You know,
winning the league.
Wankurukuku is still their home, you know. They'll say that. But the example of Express winning the league is something we can't take lightly. You know, this is having a good structure, you know, having the right team, you know, having the right players. All these things, when you put them up and have them in the right direction, things can work out. So we need to first understand that our league is young and be real with that. And then we see, how can we make this league better? You know, how can the federation be better? How can the clubs be better? How can the players be better? How can the fans be better?
When you speak on the fact that the federation is really trying to do something, it worries me, because I'm from this school of thought where I really believe soccer, just alone soccer, can be independent enough to survive in our country. Like look at the Masaza Cup. If there was like a strategy, I personally believe this is one of the things I really want to talk to one of any of those Baganda people who are big and management, because I believe if there were structures within and they were functioning, the country, sports alone would not need the government support. Let's say like how they needed the government to give them money to go for basketball. I believe that if there were structures that were functioning, there's a lot of money from, let's say, merchandising, from what that can always come from the federation, and the federation could be sustainable enough. What do you think?
No, that is,
you see, not sustainable for all these years.
You see, the challenge is, it's like the situation we're in, we're like in a startup, you get. So in a startup, you're going to have, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. But then if you don't build that foundation down there, where you know that this is the structure, this is how we're going to run things, this is how we're going to do things, it can really mess you up. So I think for the past 4 or 5 years or so, there's really been some structures. You know, you can have a direct communication with some guy at FIFA.
Yeah.
You know, that is not something you could do 10 years ago. You know, you can go to a FIFA office and discuss things with like investment and blah 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 and all that.
Yeah.
You know, so they've really tried to put in some work and all that. But then the reality is, again, it takes us back to the point of we are still a young league. You know, this is something you can't take away from anyone.
Yeah.
You know, so this might take us, 10 years from now, it might take us 20 years, it might take us 50 years. You know, the Al Ahlis of Africa you're seeing right now, the winning the African, championship and all that. These are not coming by mistake. These clubs have been there, they've done so much to reach there, So I think we need to focus on the basics, Let's focus on the small things. Let's have the right structures. Let's go to ground football. Let's invest there, This is why I was
when you say invest in ground football, what exactly do you mean? And this is because it's part of the clients that listens to this podcast, and there are many people waiting to pick on ideas. We've had this on a few episodes where they picked on people's ideas and they've actually executed them. Yeah. So where do you think, on the ground roots, how is it pushed up?
Now, if we're to look at football, I'll give you an example of like, okay, if you had a kid right now and you wanted them to maybe pick interest in football, where are you going to take them? You're going to think of an academy, isn't it? That's a starting point. Like, how are the academy structures? I think FIFA has really done something good with that. They have academies registered.
I remember KK was popular when I was growing up. I don't know any others like that. I don't also see them brand out. Yeah. And it's a digital one, at least.
No, like I said, that is a challenge they are now facing. Like the federation is going to come and say, you know what? The academies need to be set up. Yeah. But then now how the academies are run and how they are branded, that's not done. You can't blame the federation for that. So now people who are running these academies, people who want to invest in these academies should know that the times have changed. You need to run things differently. You need to invest into marketing, you need to invest into branding, you need to invest into maybe your funds, your stadiums, whatever it is, But then it needs to go down to the grassroots. Those structures from the grassroots, you're talking of maybe the juniors league, whatever it is, the grassroots football, the grassroots federation. Like, I want a kid in maybe Kanungu or wherever it is to have a chance, to have a ground where he can go to and say, you know what, I'm starting my career from here. So I think the problem is still down there. Yes, the national team is doing well.
Is it really?
Yeah, they've done some progress in the past couple of years. So I think that.
How do we measure progress of the national team now? Like, because you're probably more knowledgeable than I am.
Now, like,
so, because I always see that we Ugandans are always disappointed after a game. Okay, if we lose, we've also had our FIFA president come out to call the players because of frustration. Of course, that is a comment anyone would make if they're frustrated.
I think a couple of years ago, Sekafa was a realistic goal. We never went for Sekafa, we won, and guys were happy with that. Yeah. Then maybe trying to qualify for the AFCON. But then now we have done AFCON a couple of times. That has been good. Of course, this time we're disappointed we didn't qualify. That tells us that we're a step back. But I'm sure now we've had some visits in the AFCON that gives us that progress of, like, it gives us that mindset that we can push to the to the to the World Cup at some point. So I think that is the direction FIFA is trying to have right now. We've been to AFCON a couple of times. Can we now push to qualify for the World Cup? And I think it's around the corner. It's not very far.
No, usually people who come like you with all these really good ideas for the players, just like in the entertainment industry, people who come, labels always exploit children. Before you know it, we get cases of people like the great Moses Radio. To him. Coming out to say that we have been exploited. Just recently, I've just learned that there is someone who actually owns Chameleon's music. And they come out to say they claim it and they paid for it sometimes back. So how sure are we that NextPro Sports is not going to take advantage of this management window to exploit young superstars who come for its own benefit? Because you see, once you sign these contracts, usually that's...
Now, the thing is, we have a representation contract with the players, and there are clauses there that most of the clauses they actually protect the player. Now, I'll give you an example. This Rep K is just maximum for 2 years. When it's done after 2 years, the player has the right to leave you or not renew it, and it's his right. You know, so there's that protection clause for the player. But then again, me, I'm coming from the background of a footballer. I want to help. I want to help change that. You know, there are players being exploited. There are players being made to sign 6-year contracts, 10-year contracts. You know, that don't make sense. You know, so I want to eradicate that. I'm very open with our players. We are very honest with them. We tell them what's on ground and what's not there. If it is 2 years, it's 2 years. After 2 years, it's up to the player to say, you know what, you guys have been amazing with me. You guys have been good with me. Can we continue this relationship? So our role is to try and create and build that relationship where the player is going to live with us beyond 2 years, you know. And to us, it's not about contracts, you know. It's about, can we add value to that kid, man? Can we give that kid a stepping stone to something bigger, you know? So that is what we're looking at NextPro Sports.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Now, Suliz, let's talk about now sports in general.
Yeah.
How do you get the interest in sports? And you've also traveled and been out of the country, been exposed to the sports.
Yeah.
What uniqueness are you adding to the sports industry? What's wrong with our sports? Now, on your perspective, on your wishes, what would you wish that, okay, why don't we have the Mbappes?
Now everything comes down
just on the player side. Now I'm speaking on the player side.
On the player side. On the player side, I think, you know, information is a very key thing. Education is really something very, very vital, you know. And if you're looking at the education bit of it, it shouldn't be just about, like I said, football and stuff like that. You're having a kid in Europe who is 10, 12, but then this kid is having 360 degree of knowledge of football. You know, he's knowing the football side of things, and then he's having maybe the football knowledge of investments and stuff like that. You're seeing a kid sign an endorsement deal when he's 15, 16. Like, these are things our players are not exposed to at an early age. You know, you're going to find a kid who is 15, 16 at secondary school. That's when he's going to start his football career. And he will play up to the, you know, UPL and it's okay. But then you can't now compare that kid with probably a kid in Europe who has had the chance to have all that knowledge. Yeah. So I think kids and parents and the managers and whoever is dealing with them should really invest in educating them on things that they can do that can help their career. Like, getting that information is very, very, very vital.
Why don't we have big guys? Because first of all, we have a lot of people, I don't know by local eyes, when I drive around, you see sport. But then before they locked us down, all these sports betting places would be full. Fortbet has about 200 buildings, I think, everywhere. They paint, they're branded, they invest in you, enter into a Fortbet, and they are all these laptops. It's really huge investments.
We don't have a sports curriculum. This is one big thing, you know. There is no sports curriculum, like nothing.
So what do you mean sports curriculum?
There are schools in Europe where you could have they have a sports, like how you have a Form 5 curriculum, like, or a kindergarten curriculum. There's a sports curriculum on how the development of the player is supposed to run and stuff like that. Now, this is something they have been trying with the academies and the junior leagues, with the coaches and stuff like that. I don't know how far they've gone, but we need something which is very, very intentional. That for us to change this industry, we need to do this. Like, if you're coming into the league, you need to have these standards. Even if we're two of us, we're going to go with the two guys who are serious. So it needs to be very, very, very intentional. It can't be by mistake.
Well, my sports betting thing was, how come we don't have people like Sportspesa coming down here to invest in clubs? Because then I really feel like we do have, there's a lot of Ugandans who are betting sports.
Yeah.
So, because we have all these companies come down here, so it's moving business for them. How come we don't have them? How come we don't have structures that really implement them to at least invest some of the money they're taking out?
Now, it takes you back to the ecosystem of sports. And I'll use football as the benchmark again. You have the clubs, you have the players, you have the fans, you have the broadcasters, then you have the investors, whoever. Those are the stakeholders in the game. Now, if the club is not getting numbers, if the club is not getting funds to play, to come and watch games in the stadiums, there is no investor who is going to invest in that club because there will be no returns, you know. So if the players are not playing good football, if you don't have good infrastructures and stadiums, there is no broadcaster who is going to come and want to broadcast those games, you know. So if the club is not getting money, the players are not going to be paid, you know. So it's a circle of everything. Everyone needs to be playing. Need to be doing their job. Now, just imagine, I'm going to give you an example. Imagine if the government intentionally invested in, let me say, Express, Villa, KCCA, and maybe Vipers or a URA, these big teams. Like, this investment is going to be intentional to build the league, you know. If the government did that, now, imagine all these 5 clubs have their own stadiums, Now, these clubs, they have numbers, traditionally. They have very, very big numbers. Now, imagine a KCCA traveling to Lira to play a team in Lira. How many fans do you think are going to watch that game in Lira? There are going to be so many, you know, and that is income for that club in Lira, you know. And this is
Baraka making. There's a time where almost all their games used to fill up, fans would come.
I don't know, they were making really some good numbers, you know, and that is
that time you are a non-Baraka fan, I remember.
No, I've really never supported them, but I like the vibe they had at that time, you know. So, like, if we can have that kind of influence in the big teams, the smaller clubs are definitely going to benefit from that. No doubt. They're going to benefit from it. So when you do that now, investors are also going to come in. Like, the sports guys are also going to come in and say, you know what, let's come in, you know. But then you look at the structures of these clubs. The people running these clubs are really not that educated on how they can run these clubs. Express is the best example again I can give you. You know,
they have their president is Medan Segona, by the way, who is Express president, I think. Chairperson is not?
No, the chairman is the attorney general, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. I was reading because it's a very. I wanted to say, how come? But no, even this other, the attorney general is the chairman. Yes.
Yeah, it's their chairman. Then their CEO is Isaac. You know, they have a very good structure and team. You know, built up. Like, they're really, really, really strong force. And once you have a running structure, no one can beat you. No one can. Once you have a team that knows what they're doing, no one can beat you. You're just...
Speaking of management, how is it possible that the former president ran for president again unopposed? What went wrong? This is, for as a fan, what do you think about it? And I have seen you have a picture of the president, with the new coach, so we'll talk about that right after this. How come there's no competition? People like you, why aren't you standing for presidency? And when you stand, how come people just follow?
Man, there are so many regulations, you know, to reach that stage of being in. being in the nomination papers and everything for that post. And I think this conversation has been running so much on the talk shows and the TVs and whatever it was, Mujib and Magogo and all that. But no, like I said, it's what they have on paper in their, I don't know, their constitution, their electoral process guidelines and whatever. It's what they have. So maybe whatever they have there, maybe put some guys.
Being for president? Because that's where, when you go for this big position, that is why the real change is actually impacted. As even if you want so much change for your community, you can only execute that change if you say become an MP. And can really get the funds and come out to your community, but no amount of noise can bring about change. It does not, no amount of, let's say, the good honorable saying, that does not bring real actual change to anyone. That is sugarcoating us. So people like you, do you have ambitions of going for these elected positions to actually bring change, not to go and, because you see you're coming to the sports fraternity with a big investment, it's NextPro is doing management. So, but you're always going to find, or once there's big money moving, one thing I know about our government, once there's big money moving anywhere, someone has to frustrate that process so that it's either they benefit from it or it is killed down. This can be seen in health, in renovation, things we've had private investors being turned down just because maybe they're not agreed on a few things. So do you have any of those ambitions? And imagine yourself for president. What would be the first 10 things you do for our sports?
Really, currently the thing is, I don't have those ambitions of being FIFA president.
But if you were FIFA president,
I've not thought about it. The major thing is, I think, like I said, we come from the footballers' background. We come from the players' background. I think the players have
and this puts you right in that exact position where now you have the education, you have the exposure, you have the passion.
I'll come to the point of if I were the FIFA president. I wanted to make this point first. Like, I think the players have not been given that attention and kind of like the care they need, So I think that is my biggest challenge for now. I've had friends who are really very, very good footballers. These are guys who could have played in the national team, they could have done it, but then just not having the right guy to guide them through their careers, they branched off, So I want tomorrow a kid to wake up and tell his dad, you know what? I want to be a football player. I don't want a kid to say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an MP, I want to do what. I want a kid to wake up and say, I want to be like Alan Okello, I want to be like...
The culture where I see a problem with such a culture is right back from school where I'm actually supposed to pick up the passion in school. It looks like there's no breeding culture, apart from, of course, it's commendable what Mujib has done in the St. Mary's schools. The soccer, I do not know if there are other examples, and all other great people, probably. But in school, when you're not, let's say you want to really be interested in sports and all this stuff, you'll probably be taken off, or the school will again be corrupt and bringing in people who will have to win games, so they'll bring Machuba. So you as a soccer player, you either have to focus on your education, which by the way, so it is hard for you to divide education and sports in school. If you really have to be a very good player, you have to cut down the education. Most cases, that is how it has been. There are very many rare cases of guy performs well and is also he's on the national team. So you have to sacrifice to give it that direction. And where it's almost close to impossible, there's a stigma around school and family where it's coexisting. You really cannot just drop academics for soccer when your father sent you for school. There's no actual value. Even me, the parent, I cannot see that, but why is my boy playing soccer right now? Why is he? Because there's no money when you get injured in rugby alone. When you get injured, the injury is on you and your family to treat. And even if it's as expensive as your shoulder or what, the national team, I've seen some guy write articles crying about some money. They were giving sad stories. But I also come from a Minyango college where I played rugby, and I've seen my own friends suffer these things. Some dropped out, a lot of other schools. So the passion alone cannot help you survive.
Yeah, of course it can't.
So the culture in school also has to change. It is only because schools have to win. So me as a guy who knows my skill will also be overshadowed on my pride. I have to be extremely, extremely, extremely too good, and that comes with a lot of demoralization. I have to lay back or really give in and ignore my academics. But there's pressure on my academics because there's a community I live for, live with, and I have to survive the world.
True.
So what do you think about that culture, and how would you wish that could be fixed?
It can't be fixed right now. You can't. It's just what it is.
True.
But again, man, you look at the sports, you look at the education. Yeah, like we need to give value to sports at some point, and that is what we are trying to fight. Yes, you'll need the education, but even sports guys go back to school and they study and get their degrees and all that. It shouldn't stop you. So it goes down to the sacrifice.
Yeah, because this helps you. This is why we have all, according to what you are explaining the vision of NextPro is, you really need a lot of this sensitization, all this education for these players to understand these things. But that is where the grassroots issue is. To be a very good player, one that probably has to come to be managed by NextPro. In Uganda currently, I have to shut down my education, but yet I need my education to be at the level NextPro needs me to take me to the level at which a top footballer is supposed to be.
No, you don't really need that. There are some basic things we try and teach them, like, of course, when you're going to we negotiate the contracts on their behalf, but then of course the player has to tell you, this is what I need, this is where I am in my career, this is where I want to go. So you probably have some roadmap of what you're going to negotiate in the contracts. But then, like, we're talking of basic knowledge, like how can you present yourself if maybe you've been called for an interview. How do you manage time? Are you going to reach on time for the interview, or you're going to reach an hour late? Are you honest with yourself? Are you saying the truth? Are you telling me you're injured, or you're just trying to lie and you don't attend the game? So those basic knowledge of, like, trust, being transparent, and then, like, the basic things of being a professional, time management, being committed to what you do, being committed to respecting your contract that you have signed, all those things. Because you're going to find a kid that signed a contract, he's not turning up for training, he has signed a contract, he's not turning up for games. Like, those are unprofessional behaviors. Sure. Then also on the sides of the clubs are making these kids sign contracts, they're not paying them, So there are those irregularities in regards to how to be professional.
So in this case, NextPro will be suing on behalf of the player, will be suing the club that is not playing.
Yeah, we have a legal team that handles that. So, like I said, it's just the basic knowledge of how can you present yourself as a professional player. So I don't think you need some school knowledge and all that, but then we try and install the basics in these kids.
Interesting. Now, to just drift away from that, Micho is back to Uganda craze.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that as a soccer fan?
It's like going back to that ex, man.
Some people go back to the ex.
Yeah, some people go back and it works out. I really hope it works out for him. He's a top guy. I've met him a couple of times. I think he's a very focused guy. He's about his job. His numbers in African football are top.
Recommendable.
Yeah, I think I really hope he's going to do a very good job, because like I said, sometimes you go back to that ex and then it doesn't work out, and then you just go so many steps down. So I really hope this thing with him and Fufa works out, and then he really takes us to that next stage where we're trying. If he can get us that World Cup spot, I think he will have achieved whatever he's meant to do.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So, NextPro Sports, new in the game, we have talked about how really it's hard to invest in sports. Everyone understands, and because of structures we do not have, so the investment in sports alone becomes extremely huge. Where does NextPro Sports get the money? come on board, things. How as new as you, do you have partners in Germany? Are we looking at and these are big questions that you would have asked. Where is the investment budget? Because it's a whole money thing, man. Like, what if you're not comfortable sharing, that is still okay. Of course, it's personal business. What are some of those things you really know that?
I think let's first talk about our strengths, before we go to the investment things. I think I've built a team of people I trust, people I've been around for so long, and they really buy into the idea of what we're trying to build. That has been a major thing for me personally, because I've really approached so many guys in regards to whatever we're trying to do. I approached so many guys and they had other ideas that wasn't matching with ours, So my team is very good. I like those guys. They know what they're doing. They love what they're doing, and they know the vision of what we're trying to build. Yeah. That is one thing. Secondly, we are really working into partnering with guys. We're looking into partnering with production companies. We have other agencies in Europe that we're partnering with. We have local sports entities here that we're partnering with. We have corporations here that we're looking to partner with. We're in contact with them night and day. So I think that idea of partnership is very important. Like, I can't do this alone. I want my player to come here tomorrow and maybe jump on the podcast with you guys. But that can't happen if we don't have a partnership.
That's right.
And that partnership might not involve money. Yeah. So I think that is also one thing that we are really good at. Yeah. We're trying to build really beneficial, partnerships that is going to benefit the players, us, and whoever is on the other side. So those two things are really very, very good. Then, in regards to investment, I think majority of it is coming from me personally. I have my own other businesses that I deal in. I have my own other investments that I'm working with. So I'm trying to see ways where I can push that into this side of things. And so far we're good where we are.
That's commendable, really. And the question was to just probably highlight so that investors again.
Yeah. If they're there, they're willing, we're ready to talk.
Hit me up. Things like that, they should. What brings about that dream to really get into the motivation? You as a person now, as Suliz, how are you able to do this every day? How have you decided that I am going to do this every day for the rest of my life? Because this is a company you're starting and it's going to be a part of you until, of course, protocol. But even if they fire you, when Steve Jobs, when Steve Jobs was fired and brought back. Yeah. So,
I think my motivation comes from the game itself, man. I've been football all my life. Anyone who knows me you can't put something before football if you know me. Every time we're having a chat, I'll probably have a line or two regards to football, and this comes from where I grew up. I come from Lira, and where I come from, we really had this community kind of thing where football was the only thing that could unite us. We had nothing else, Before the music came in and stuff like that, for us it was only football. We could go to play under 14 games and, everyone around the community is collecting money and, getting us water and maybe paying us money and stuff like that when we were kids. Yeah. So it had that influence on me when I was still a very, very young kid. And I reached a point where football was my only way out. I had friends who had started, doing things, they've started getting out of order and stuff like that. And football was my safe space. I used to go maybe to a pitch and I play football and I forget about so many things. So it was like my safe space. So I feel like I'm a student of the game. I'm a kid who was born in this thing, and I want to stay there. I really I'm passionate about computers.
Yeah.
I'm a computer engineer. I have my degree and everything.
How do you branch away? Are you doing any other stuff in computer engineering, or you've branched away from what you studied to major in the sports?
I was doing it for some time, but right now I've not like 90% I've branched off because I really want
this needs a lot of time.
This needs a lot of commitment and time. So I've like 90% branched off that now, and I'm just focusing on this because I really feel this has more impact on my side. It has more impact than whatever I could do with computer engineering and the rest of it.
Okay, as we really conclude, what is this legacy you're trying to leave behind? If the creator yelled cut on you at some point, what is that one thing you know that this is what I want to achieve with whatever I'm doing?
I think I want it to be remembered as a platform that gave a right guidance and gave a kid a safe space to make it in professional football. That is what I want to try and build. I want to have that space where a kid can come in no matter where they're in their careers, and then if we can guide him and give him the right things, right tools to help push him to the next level, then we'll be happy with that. And that is what I want. I want them to be that guy who a kid can call me at any time, and then say what I need help with this. Can you help me out? And I will be glad to help them. So that is the legacy, if you would want to term it that way. I want it to be that space for any kid who is interested in football or any other sports. We're looking into venturing other sports as well. You can call us and then we help you, we give you the right guidance. Because I've really done this with my friends who are playing in the league and I've not got any penny out of it. When I was at campus, kids were calling me, can you look into my contract? Can you call this chairman and tell him you're my manager and help me get my money back? Can you look into this contract before I sign? Is there some loophole here and there you could look at? So I feel I want to give back to the players, man. I want to build a player that I couldn't make myself be.
Now, we'll go back to that question you really wanted to dodge and decide this. If I'm made president, and I appoint you for president, what are the first 10 things you do to change sports? Major League Soccer in the country. We'll call it.
Wow.
You can just point them out. This build stadiums, just no explanations, just 10 things you want to highlight that this needs to change, this.
It's a hard one. But you have to put them in order, or I can just mix them. I think one, I would invest in the education side of things. That is, be it for the players, for the clubs, or whatever it is. We need to have some structure where we could say, if you wanted to be a football coach, go do this course, you're going to get this. You're going to get it right.
We don't have that here. Is that why we don't have it?
They're there. I think they're there, but man, like I said, there's so many. There's so many things behind it. So education would be top priority for me, I think. Then 2, I would go into maybe having the infrastructures. I think we need them. I've never doubted talent in this country. I think we still have so much talent. We have probably the best talent in the region. So the talent is there. But then do you have the infrastructure for them to go and say, you know what, I'm going to play football in that pitch. I'm going to run on that track. I'm going to swim here. So infrastructure should be there in place. 3 would be this will be, I think, based on the education side of things, like having structures, systems that really work. I believe in systems a lot, so I think we need to build systems of, be it academy systems or grassroots football systems or grassroots football federations and whatever they are. We need to have a system that you don't need to call me to make a decision of someone who is in the regional league. You don't need to call the FIFA president. You don't need, Like that regional league should have its system that
That's right.
can run. I think that would be it. Then for what else would it be, man? What else would it be? Of course, money needs to come in. You need to look for ways of how you're going
Getting
to.
investors
Yeah,
and
you
all
need
that
to.
stuff, getting
need to
more
get-
money in circulation.
Yeah,
for
you need to
sports.
get investors in to play the game, and of course, man, again, bringing in people. You need to. Man, this is a big question.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Like it can't be zero.
But
to
four,
just,
yeah, four
to
is
just
interesting too.
just 10 things or 4 things.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
It's broad.
really so wide,
Yeah,
man.
I totally agree. But those are really enough.
It's
So they highlight what we really
Yeah,
need.
but there's some other things we could do, but
Most of
those
them
are
are in
really-
this conversation.
yeah, these are top things I would really want. Education is very important. We're lacking in infrastructures, and investors need to come in. So if you can get those 3-4 things, I think it's a good start. It would be a good start for me if I were president.
1 minute to shout out, maybe to say thanks or anything. You wanna explain your cape? But yeah, that's Liquor House.
Liquor House, these are my good friends. They're good people. They got you anytime. Maybe just to say thank you to my team at NextPro Sports. They're very good guys. They know what they're doing. I'm nothing without them. You know, NextPro is about them. This is not about me. I'm just a guy trying to tell them let's do this. But they are the guys doing the work. The players that have signed up with us, the players who would love to sign up with us, you're always welcome. Our doors are always welcome.
You're revealing a new player this year. This week.
Yeah, we're looking to revealing one more player this week. Then we see how it goes from there. And I love that team. They're very good guys. We're going to try and do some big things, you know.
Right.
So thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
This
big
has
things
been-
and big conversations, of course.
Yeah, this has been a long time coming. I've had a good time here, so let's see where it takes us.
Same. Nice.
Thanks.